Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dadas Show, coming to you from Ma Hotel and Suites here in Nairobi. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. The Dadas Show aspires to create a safe and open platform for Kenyan women to share issues pertaining to their health, their lifestyle, their careers, and anything that matters to them. Of course, this is in the spirit of creating a very unified bloc as Kenyan women. Now, life has changed substantially in the past 2 decades of the 21st century. This is, of course, attributed to the disruptions in technology, globalization, and other factors. We now have inventions that we cannot be able to function without, such as social media, smartphones, and by this reason, fundamental things such as parenting have had to evolve to keep up with these changing trends. Parenting teenagers is most probably the hardest and most important job we can take on as parents and guardians and caregivers. But many parents and guardians feel stuck, they feel helpless, they feel hopeless, and they feel powerless when it comes to deal with teenage behavior, especially teenagers of the 21st century, where technology is evolving at a neck-break speed. Now, in today's episode, we shall be engaging with parents, caregivers, guardians, and anybody who is involved, and women who are actually involved in children's life, in attempt to share and educate, and of course support each other in this journey. As always, we encourage you at home to take part in this and every other conversation by joining us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. We always look forward to hearing what your opinion is. Are you a parent of a teenager or a pre-teenager? What is your life like? What are some of the tribulations that you experience raising a teen and a preteen in the 21st century? Now, before we jump into the topic, let's take a short break as we look at the following feature.
Navigating the teenage years can be quite stressful for both a parent and child. Parents only want to help their teenagers succeed, yet everything they say or do seems to annoy them. So how do parents survive these challenging teenage years?
My name is Nancy Gadingi. I'm a parent to 4 children. 2 are young adults, and 1 is a teen who just turned 18, and 1 is an adolescent. And I'm a psychologist by profession, specifically marriage and family. For our children, one of the great things that is happening is that they are living today, and we keep referring to them as the children of today. And now that they are living today, they are dealing with the issues, the current issues. To start with, there's the issue of social media, where there's a lot of comparison, there is a lot of influence from many sources. It's like they're being bombarded with a lot of information on how they should look, how they should talk, how they should live. There's this thing that is just being painted and brought to them. And of course, anytime a human being feels inferior, they act out. Because a teenager is a teenager, whether they are being brought up in whatever world. And even for us, like me as an older woman now, I once was a teenager. My parent was once a teenager, but the issues and the environment that they were growing in was different. So one of the things that we need to appreciate as parents who are parenting teenagers today is that we need to be relevant. We need to raise this teen of today. We need to embrace them. We need to allow them to blossom in this world village, as we are calling it, so that we do not suppress them and make them to live in the past, yet they are existing today. Because the teenager today is very, very empowered with a lot of information, with modern ways of doing things. For instance, me as a teenager growing up, I grew up in Nairobi, in Mudhurwa before it became a market. And my responsibilities were many. I had to go to the market. It went without saying. light Ashiko. But today we have supermarkets. So my children do not need to go to the market. Where I live, I don't have a shamba. How do I manage that teenage in terms of chores? So we need parents. I actually think we need to empower the teenage parent or today's parent to parent today's child.
And Nancy says that teenagers survive on affirmation and therefore stresses on the need to support their mental health and well-being.
We find that there are a lot of crises, conflicts within this teen, within this child. Maybe there are challenges at home between the parents. We are seeing a lot of, broken homes. Maybe there would be issues of poverty, and this teen, they just don't know how to deal with it. Yeah, so they are like, my parents can't take me to high school. I'm a burden. Let me kill myself. Yeah, so as parents, we need to engage with our children where we are. Yeah, because poverty, we cannot wish it away. Where a child is born, they don't plan for it, and no parent would want to raise their children in poverty. But when you find yourself as a parent who is raising a child in a given circumstance, then how do you help your child navigate that? So that we empower our children to be well-rounded, so that they don't start thinking that when I get a lot of money, or when all my needs are met, when I'm able to afford all these things, when I'm living large, then I am good.
It is important to understand that every teenager, no matter where they are raised, face different kinds of challenges.
A teenager growing in the slum or growing in a remote village, they have their own peculiar challenges. Maybe in terms of provision, so they may find themselves, kwenda kujitafutia. However, I would also want us to appreciate that every teenager, even the one being raised in the state house, or even in an affluent family, they have their own unique challenges. Because when we come to issues of growing, every person is growing. And we are all growing in a different environment. Again, I still come back to we as parents. How do we help this teen to navigate through the challenge that they are going through?
Social media plays a big role in teen culture today. The more reason parents need to help their teens use the social media sites responsibly.
Social media in our day is the thing, because all of us, not only teenagers, but even older people, we are using social media to communicate. So social media is not only a challenge to the current teen. So as a parent, parenting a teen, first model how you use social media, then train them what is social media meant to do. It's a communication tool. You can learn from social media. You can pick a lot of things from social media. So social media is not a bad thing, but how do you use that social media? Because for sure in today's world, you cannot protect yourself or protect your child from social media. Like in any other environment, teach your child how to live through that environment. How is it that you can make the most out of that social media?
With all said and done, having the right parenting tips can help raise a respectful and responsible teenager.
What I would like to advise parents is that do not overfunction in your teen's life. And overfunctioning may maybe coming out like trying to protect them from the world, trying to protect them from social media or from bad influence. Don't overfunction. Allow them to grow and be. Just equip them with basic skills. And this you start doing not to a teenager, but when the child, right from when the child is born. Just equip them. Once you equip them, don't overfunction. Allow them to be.
Welcome back. So joining me, as I mentioned, is a very wonderful group of people. So we are going to be engaging with caregivers, but we'll also be engaging with industry experts so that you at home can actually be able to learn a thing of two in regards to parenting your teen or your preteen, or your preteen actually. So right next to me, I have counseling psychologist Pauline Mwikali. Karibu sana, Pauline. Next to her is a parenter and educator, Mrs.Caroline Muhonja. And finally, at the end of my row, we have parent, mentor, and activist, Faith Wanjiru Mwangi. Of course, I cannot fail to acknowledge my wonderful, wonderful audience who have taken time away from their busy schedules to sit with me as we discuss and as we tackle and we engage and we support each other as we discuss the topic on raising teens and preteens in the 21st century. Karibuni sana, ladies. So to get the ball rolling, I'll start off with you, Pauline. In your extensive experience as a as a counseling psychologist, what are the most common issues that parents face with teenagers and pre-teenagers in the 21st century?
Okay, thank you so much, Ashiko, for having us here. My name is Pauline Mwikali, as you've heard. I'm a counseling psychologist, and I spend a lot of time with children and teenagers and parents also. So I'm engaged in talking to teenagers and preteens on mental health and what they need to do, especially with their brain, to leverage on the giftings that they have and their abilities. I also spend a lot of time equipping parents on how to understand their children and make sure they make the most out of them, especially in these turbulent times of social media and the like. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So in your opinion, what are some of the commonly faced problems and situations that teenagers and preteens experience in this, in this century?
Okay, allow me to divide that into two.
Yes.
The challenges parents face and the challenges the preteens and the teens face.
Yes.
So let me start with the children. So a preteen is someone between the age of 9 to 12, just before 13, and their need is to have competency, all right? So this is the time when they want to know what their abilities are. This is the time they want to be affirmed, to be connected to things that can help them grow up in their gifting. Let's say if a child is gifted in piano or football and stuff like that, a parent needs to be very keen to see that and connect the child to get that. Because if they don't, they'll develop inferiority. They'll feel hopeless and helpless. So I meet kids who tell me, I wish my mom or my parents or my guardian can connect me to somewhere I can realize this. So that's their challenge at that time. Teenagers have a need for identity. So that's why you'll hear teenagers saying, Mom doesn't understand me. Teachers don't understand me. Nobody cares about me. So their image is so important, and their identity is very important, and their friends are very important, and how they look and appear. Clothing is very key to them. So those are the challenges they face. Nobody is listening to me. Nobody is understanding. Parents, on the other hand, feel we're not the only parents. We try to give values and all that in the house, but the media is parenting our children. The environment is parenting our children. And so you have parents asking, what do I do? How do I get to understand my child? My teenager all of a sudden is closed in. How do I go about getting her out? you know, from this. My child is sad. How do I get her or him talking? Yeah, so these are the challenges on both sides of the divide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, Caroline, based off what Pauline has shared in regards to what parents and teenagers are going through, what has your experience been in raising your own children and dealing with teenagers and preteens in your line of work?
Thank you, Ashiko. My name is Caroline Kahingo. I am an educator. I've taught in high school for 26 years, 9 of which I served as a deputy principal in charge of discipline. Currently, I'm a part-time lecturer at KCA University, where I'm teaching life skills. We also have an organization, Mustard Seed Trainers, which does relationship bonding with the parents who want to bond with their teenagers, with families and corporates. So that is what we've been doing. I have 3 children. My firstborn is 32 years old. My secondborn is 26, and my lastborn is 19. And therefore, I have had experience raising kids in the 20th century and in this century. I have also interacted with quite a number of teens in high school because they come to Form 1 when they're about 13, 14 years. And we are in charge of seeing them through until they leave Form 4. So based on what Pauline has said, I would agree that personally, my biggest challenge was communication. That you have a child who has been open, they see that you know everything, mom knows everything, and then when they become teens and preteens, they start questioning. In fact, they'll keep on telling you, teacher didn't say that. And maybe when you tell them something, they tell, no, teacher said this. So you find that now you're fighting to get your authority. You don't really want to tell them the teacher is wrong, even when you know the teacher said the wrong thing. Another challenge is that once they get to that age, they are also, because of peer pressure, so they value their friends' words more than what you say. So it will be like, so-and-so was told this by their parent. So that is the word. So you're a bit too old.
You're backwards.
Yeah,
You're
the
shady.
BC age. You don't know anything.
Yes.
So that is a challenge.
Now, Faith, you are a parent to teenagers. You're a mentor, you're a human rights activist, and you're based in Kangemi. Also, based off your experience, what are some of the common issues that teens and preteens and their parents face in informal settlements?
My name is Faith Mwangi. They call me also Mamayo or Mom in Kangemi because I deal with the youth and the teens and the preteens. I'm also a mother of 4. 2 are adults now because one is 29, the other one is 26. The firstborn is a boy, the secondborn is a girl. And then I have a 13-year-old and a 11-year-old.
Wow.
So those are 2 generations.
Yes.
And the problems we face in the informal settlements. One of the biggest challenges in the informal settlements is poverty of the perception of it thereof. Because these people can live or they pursue, many people assume they are poor. But I think poverty is a matter of the mind. And you find that because of how we are not financially stable, we live in otherwise very self-sufficient houses. And then that is one of the beginning of the problems. The other problem is groupings. We have a lot of drugs. We have a lot of insecurities. But then I go back to our otherwise very self-contained houses. Remember, other than those of us who are single, we have parents who have husbands. They are both partners.
Yes.
And two things happen. There is, of course, lazima mpendane.
Lazima.
And these are otherwise very self-sustaining houses.
So ni nyumba tu ndogo. Tuseme ni kama
Kila
zile
kitu
zinakuanga
iko
za
hapo
room
ndani.
moja.
So uko na watoto na wako na double decker pale. And God has blessed you with a girl and a boy, and they are all in their teenage.
Yes.
And so the normal activities have to go on.
Yes.
And sometimes parents assume that these kids are not hearing them.
Yes.
But they're in that age where they have to experiment and to hear. So when they hear, now they are very sneaky. They will also try it on their sisters. Sawa. And because now maybe the brother is a bigger one, he will prevail over the girl never to say what has happened. So now comes in the issue of drugs, because they both have the guilty conscience steps in. And they have to start taking drugs. So there is that peer pressure, and these drugs are readily available in our places. The other thing also we have to realize, there is also an issue of parents that abuse their children. Because these are 13-year-old, if they are like my daughter, they are very well endowed. And now, if you see my 13-year-old and me, we look almost like sisters. So, you know men.
Yes.
And they will start thinking, oh my God, kamelala. Unajua kanalala tu vibaya. And maybe you're so tired from work as a mother. So the husband comes late and drunk. And that is not an excuse.
It is really not.
And these children are defiled. And that is why, as activists, we are there. Sawa. Because we've got to stand in and defend the voiceless. And we've got to be a voice to those ones.
That's really well put, Faith. And that's actually, that's a number of challenging issues that children and the teens and the preteens and the parents face in the informal settlements. And I'm hoping that the powers that may be would be watching the show and can look at a way to intervene and to step in. And we will actually touch on that a little bit later. Now, back to you, Pauline. It's definitely no secret from the conversations that we have had. It's definitely no secret that today's teenagers and preteens are different from other generations. Obviously, by virtue of that, they are exposed to and they interact with both good and bad aspects of the 21st century. So in your professional experience, what are the key aspects of good parenting in the 21st century?
I think one of the reasons is the generation that was behind was raised by very tough parents. You do as I say. There is no room for negotiation. And so what happened to that generation, it felt that didn't work. So it came by and started parenting in a very laid-back way. We call it sometimes permissive parenting, where you don't want to struggle with the child. Whatever you want, I'll just do it for you so that we don't have to fight. So we permit them to be. So we have a lot of love for the child and very little control for the child. So what happens is this child grows up with freedom and inability to even cope with stress. All right? So we are raising children who don't have the stamina or resilience to cope with the stress in the environment. All right? The other generation was authoritarian, whereby we say, do as I say. Now, that can't work in this generation.
It cannot.
Because this generation, yes, this generation has options.
Yes.
You chase me, I have friends. I know where I can go. I have people waiting to receive me and accept me for who I am. So you can't just say, do as I say. They can hide behind a lot of things. So what can work is what we call authoritative parenting, whereby you love the child, you give the child quality time, you identify the gifts of the child. So this means parenting is about time. And you'll hear a lot of kids complaining, my parents are not there, my parents don't have time, my parents don't even know I was abused. You know, I meet kids who are molested at the age of 4 and now they are 13, and I wonder, how did the parent miss that? I was molested by someone who came for a sleepover. You know, my uncle, my nephew did this. You know, my teacher did this. I've been bullied at school. So there's no time to listen. So authoritative parents create time. You sit down and let the child talk. Create an easy environment. If you have a car, drive out. You know, go for a road drive. Not carrying your laptops and your phones and all that. And just sit down and talk. Authoritative also means put boundaries. You know, put firm boundaries. You know, media is becoming a challenge to us in Kenya. But I've read and interacted with stories of very high-flying people in the world who have boundaries in their home. You don't use a laptop in your bedroom, and they sit down and discuss. Chances of you watching pornography in your room are very high. So let's agree, because I love you and I care for you, let's have a desktop.
Yes.
Actually, I think the inventor of Microsoft or someone has a desktop computer in the living room. And it's a discussion they've had, not coercion. It's, I want to protect you. You're very, very vulnerable at teenage, all right? There are predators there outside in the social media who are claiming you. Let's have it central. Is it research you want? I'll get Wi-Fi. Let's use a desktop.
Yes.
All right? And they say, chances of your friends sending you content that is not fruitful are very high. Let's agree. Let's have a phone that stays in the living room. These are parents who have achieved this. Let's have a phone that won't get you into trouble so that I can keep you accountable. If you use my phone, chances are your friends will not send you stuff that will not be useful for you, or sell drugs to you and stuff like that. So when you're authoritative, it means you've earned respect. You can discuss matters and give what outcomes will come. Let me give you an example. When I was doing my studies, I remember doing a unit on drugs. And my kids, now they're preteens, we sat down and told them, I'm about to watch a documentary on alcohol. Do you mind joining me so that we can see the progression of alcohol? So I don't wait until they're seeking for their identity at teenage. I start early. If it's LGBTQ, I want my kid to be able to define who is a lesbian, who is gay at that age, and how do they approach you. So we sit down and parent. So I'm saying authoritative. Give instruction, love the child, meet their need, but at the same time have boundaries and consequences.
Yes.
So if I find you using the gadget wrongly, we have agreed I'll take it away. I'll take that privilege away. Because caning doesn't work at teenage.
It doesn't work at teenage. You know how are you caning someone who's taller than you?
Yeah. So a parent needs to also be very well advanced in knowledge in this generation so that you discuss issues. What is TV? When I talk to teenagers, I tell them, adolescent is the most important period of your life. Your brain is making networks that will last you for life.
Yes.
So if you sit down as a couch potato and just binge on the TV, chances are your brain will cut off the useful parts of thinking, critical thinking and engaging, and just live on the passive ones. So what kind of brain do you want to have? So when parents call me to talk to their teenagers, I challenge them on that. And I tell them, the brain you're cultivating right now will cost you memory issues and stuff like that.
And even focus, you know.
Yeah.
And even to point out and share something, we did just have a very long, very, very long 2-month holiday. You know, and I know that even based off my research when we were getting ready for this show, and it's something that you have pointed out, and it's sort of a bulb has gone off my mind, like, wait a minute, many kids were planted in front of the TV. They watched TV because, to be honest, I think when it was announced 2 months, we were like, what do you do? What am I supposed to do with all this time? And the thing about it is, reports have indicated that the opener exam has been performed very poorly. meaning that the parts of the brain that are normally ordinarily engaged when the school is in session for 2 months, the brain, sort of, for lack of a better word, lay fallow.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense right now, because we were getting the same reports even from our own, from our own schools, and they are saying, what were you guys doing? But and I think that's something that we will touch on a little bit later, because that is a lot of sense. So what, please share with me again, what did you say about the brain that you're cultivating? I really want that to stick and to resonate with our audience and for our guests here.
Yeah. So the brain develops over time. What you use. Now, let me give an example. If you scan Eliud Kipchoge's brain, you'll realize the parts responsible for his feet are larger. All right? Wow. They have more networks and they are larger because he keeps doing that. Now, if you check a child who is a leader and who keeps thinking and solving solutions, you realize the part of the brain responsible for thinking and applying knowledge is bigger. Now, if you look at a child who sits down and watches TV all through and all that, the part for critical thinking is not developing. Yes. So it lies dormant and has less network. So these are neuropsychologists will tell you. I'm not one, but we study these things.
Wow.
All right. If a child is watching violence and stuff, you'll realize the part responsible for fear, flight, fight in the brain, we call it the amygdala, is so active. Is so active. So the TV, the media does something to the brain. Now, you lose memory if you can't create, you don't retain content. Yes. So the brain I'm creating right now, whatever I'm using is being strengthened. Whatever I'm not using, the brain is cutting off. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, actually, that is eye-opening. I think I'm completely blown away, because I did not know the impact of what the children are actually exposed to has a long-term effect on how they turn out as adults, especially in their teens and their preteens. Now, before we go on the break, I want to come to you, to Faith. Faith, we talked about earlier some of the ways that you would like to see the government intervening. How can the government, how can society, how can the private sector intervene, especially in informal settlements, when it comes to assisting teens and preteens grow up to be upstanding members of society? That's a very good question, and I think that's a good question for us to actually mellow over as we take our short break, and then we will be right back for the question and answer session. Welcome back to my favorite part of the show, which is the question and answer session, where our audience gets to interact with the panel. They get to give us their feedback, their comments, and their reactions. Of course, you at home can do the same by joining us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. Let's hear from you. What do you think about today's topic or any other topic? Is there a story that you would want us to cover? Please share with us. So to start us off, I want to introduce somebody who has actually been very, very instrumental in bringing this show together. Her name is Sue, and she has a support group, actually an online support group for parents who are parenting teens and preteens. So I'll give her an opportunity to introduce herself and to share with us what her motivation was behind offering a support, creating a support group. Because I think in this very turbulent times of raising teens and preteens in the 21st century, any help you get is very, very welcome. Karibu sana, Sue.
Thank you, Ashiko. I'm Sue Musando. I wear two hats. By profession, I'm an international security professional. And then there's this other side where I did industrial psychology and child psychology. So after working in the office in offices for all this time, all these years, I got to realize that sometimes when you think, because industrial psychology is psychology in the workplace, sometimes you realize someone's work output is affected. They are not drinking. You tend to wonder what's wrong. And I would take a lot of keen, and ask what's happening. And then you'd find, I'm having a problem with my teenager or my preteen. My daughter didn't come back, and I have to be here for the meeting or for this conference. So I started wondering, how can I help
or reach out to parents so that they have a place, they have a support group. Because we can't keep on, it's not even practical to keep on running to professionals like Pauline. Not that we're denying you clients. But I have my group members, almost 6,000 now. They cannot all come to your office. So we are helping on the side. So I came up with the Parenting Teenagers Hub for Kenyan moms and dads. And I wanted to create a safe space where parents can talk, can share, and professionals also. So there are also psychologists in the group, professionals. And from different, we have from different parts of East Africa mainly.
Yes.
And for others from other parts of the world, so that people can bring in their opinions and what they feel, how things are done in their parts of the world and how we do it here. But most participants are Kenyans. Now, the one thing which made me, I got to realize that many parents, even when you're friends, very good friends, people don't talk about their children when the children have problems. We'll say the good things. We'll say, oh, she's bright, she's good in sports, she's good in that and the other. But behind closed doors, you're struggling with someone who wants to sleep and not until 1 p.m. Or you're struggling with someone who doesn't want to take a shower for his or his own reasons. So I wanted parents to feel that they are not alone. They are not struggling in this alone. We are all in this. So how is so-and-so coping with a situation like this one? And it's actually gone beyond my expectations because parents are able to share very deep and sometimes very scary things that are happening in their families. And other parents are able to share and to know, oh, you mean this can also happen? I've never imagined my child could do this. And prepare to handle those situations. Because when the professionals also give their opinions, then we learn from each other.
Yes.
One thing which I've noticed, which I've even from my studies in the past, the world may change. We're now tech, you call the others analog, but the psychology, the brain, the biology never changes.
True.
It never changes.
Yeah.
At the teenage, even when our parents were the way they were, authoritarian, we were still doing funny things. People used to sneak from home. We were still doing naughty things. And there's a way in which, of course, our parents were trying to solve those problems. Come to now, we're jumping to today. The problems are still there. Even if it's a digital problem, if it's porn or whatever it is. But the brain, the way the teenager thinks, the way the teenager does things is the same. The mechanism is the same. I was telling someone the other day, they were saying that the daughter is moody. And I was telling her, even as a lady, there's a time of the month where sometimes you're moody. Have you ever thought that your daughter can be going through the same thing?
Yeah.
Because we forget that. We have a young man, the hormones are crazy in their body. They don't even know what's happening to them. He's not talking to the mother. The mom doesn't know why he's not talking. He also doesn't know why he's not talking. So when I created that safe space, parents are able to say, oh yes, my son also does. Oh, you mean it's because of hormones? I thought ni kichwa ngumu. Or my daughter oversleeps, so she just likes lazing. Sometimes, okay, it may be lazing, and as a parent, sometimes you have to put your foot down. But you also have to understand, they get tired. The hormones are doing things in their bodies. Things are just, as you say, they want the identity. Mom is refusing me to do this. Dad is refusing me to do this. How do I get away? How do I make them understand? Or I need to be heard. So that's the reason I came up with that group. It's been on for 2 years. It's been a great learning experience for myself, and I believe for the other members as well. They've learned something. Yeah. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much too. And the name of the group is
Parenting Teenagers Hub for Kenyan moms and dads.
Okay, so I hope everybody at home and everybody in the audience has been able to capture
on
that,
Facebook.
which is Parenting Teenagers Hub for Kenyan moms and dads. Don't suffer in silence. Don't feel like, oh my God, I am all alone in this. My child is this. You know, please come and join. And that is actually on Facebook. So we're told as Facebook people are the sisi ni wazee.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's Facebook, so you know you are in safe hands. Sisi wote
Yes.
tumezeeka.
Yes.
So, and I love it. I actually did have a chance to preview some of the comments, and some of the stories are shared. You know, I think what finishes us sometimes as teenage parents is to feel that I'm alone in this. And I loved what you pointed out. People do not share the issues that their children go through. People only share the success. And yet we know that nobody is perfect. So we are going to go to our first question or comment, and that is from Sharon.
Hi.
Hi, Sharon.
My reaction is on pads. I feel like the government should give the teenagers pads, especially in rural areas, because, okay, I once visited a school. I won't mention the name, but you see, the principal told us, like, in a day, 200 girls are missing school because they don't have that pad. Then, to make things serious, it's a kijiji. Sometimes they sleep with men. It's when they get that ka 50 bob to go buy the pads. So you see, that one is promoting, we have immorality there, you see. So to me, to my reaction, if the government can kindly help those ladies, it will be much easier for them, because I can remember when I was in high school, in primary, okay, for me, I started my periods in high school. Personally, I used to give my girls, like the girls that we used to go to school with in primary school, I used to give them my pads, because my mom knew that I was in the periods, but for me, I wasn't. I was like, if she was to come to Oshago, I used to tell her, like, Mom, bring me some pads. To be sincere, it was not me using the pads. I used to give them out, because I used to see girls standing then. Sometimes you see, yeah, then unaona it's Oshago, then unaona Oshago, they used to use blankets, you see, unaona mtu ameka like kamatres, then kapach kanatoka, akisimama na, then I was like, guys, sorry, I'll bring you some, I'll give you. You see, so we were talking with the principal about it, then the message that she gave us, it was terrible, like, watoto wanajiuza ndio wapate hizo vitu. Then, si ati wanajiuza, okay, to me, wanakwambia, si ati wanajiuza kwa those people that at least the whole area is already rampant with HIV. So you see, those elderly people are taking the advantage, like, if they go there, they'll get it for 50 shillings, you see. Then, the girls, they don't have to miss school. Juu unapata saa zingine ni mtoto wa class 7 ama class 8. Maybe inaenda kwanza kama ndiye anataka kwanza exams, you see. So she'll have to give it out, then she get that pad. Sasa zenye she's giving it out, maybe unaona ndio sako limeanza, she get infected. At the same time, hiyo ni a teenager giving birth to a teenager. It's very sad.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? We actually did have an episode when we talked about period shaming and ending period poverty. And of course, once again, we have to applaud what Senator Gloria Orwoba did. And we just hope that that message resonates to the government. It was just not one woman who was communicating. It was women from all facets of life talking about period shaming and we have to end period poverty. Pads need to be given out for free and to be able to cater to these very natural processes. So I'm agreement with you, Sharon. Next, we have a question or a comment from Fanis. Fanis?
My name is Fanis Nelima. I deal with street children. And in street children, there is more like very young kids ambao wanatakana kuwa shule saizi, but they are in the street. Now they are taking drugs, wanakunywa hizo gum. When you see them, like their life has changed. And some of them, they have parents. But because of the way wanatreatiwa home, now they think the best option is to be in the street. Kando na wale ambao wako kwa sababu ya hawana wazazi. how can we help them so that they can come out from the street and have a better life like others. Second, we have ladies, young girls. Like last year, we received like more than five kids ambao walizaliwa kwa street. Now you can imagine how wako 14 years, 18 years, 20 years, na wako na watoto wamezalia hapo kwa street. If last year we niliona like more than 5 children, na obvious inaendelea kuongezeka kwa sababu right now we have some of them are already pregnant. How can we help them so that they can come out, or how can we maybe to speak to them so that we can help them ili wasiendelee kuzaana hapo, because the more wanazaana hawa watoto pia wana grow na pia watazalia tu hapo. Yeah.
Asante sana, Fanis. But you know, that is actually, they're different, you know, we've already touched on informal settlement. Now we're even going to the street children. You know, Mwalimu, I want you to tell us, in your opinion, where do you feel, you know, what needs to be done? What is the intervention that needs to be done in regards to street kids?
Thank you, Ashiko. First of all, I would want to say that some of the children go to the streets, not that they are being mistreated at home. Some of them just have a fight with the parents and they run away. Or they don't want to be told to do this or that, and they feel that when they go on the streets, they will be their own people, they will tell themselves what to do, they will get a time to engage in drugs. Having said that, I do believe that we can all come in, like the way she said that we start where we are. We have groups of young people. If we all took up collective responsibility, that even as I'm bringing my children up, I'm reaching out to those in the neighborhood, maybe have a talk with them, call them, speak to them, share with them experiences. Maybe their parents are too busy to do that, and I'm available. So I can offer myself to go and do that. Secondly, I believe that we need to look at our curriculum, that as I said that I teach life skills in the university, and I was sharing with Sue that even in the exam, what these students write, you're like, did I really teach this? And these are university students, meaning that they do not have the foundation. So what if we overhauled our curriculum and started from baby class, teaching these values, like she talked about resilience, because what is basically putting our teens down is resilience. And when they just get any challenge, they don't want to be asked questions, they want to be left on their own. So the curriculum, let's start from baby class incorporating this and appreciating that there's some parent who has not done their duty, so let us now collectively do that. I would also call on the church. I think I have an issue with the church, basically. I'm finding like the church is not doing much. We have young parents in our churches. How many seminars do we have for these young parents? I think after the wedding, when we celebrate the wedding, it's like we are like, now this is a family, let them go and
sort themselves out.
Yeah. So when we see a mother coming to church with a child who is maybe 3 years and they're misbehaving in church, running up and about, how are we coming in as church to give that support to this young parent that she needs to start asserting authority in the home? So I do believe that as a community we can do something.
Okay. So we will move on to our next question. This is from Anne.
Between when the child is born until 7 years, that's when even the kidney is formed. Even that's when the umbilical is healed. And a lot of parents ignore that. So the brain development, and when where Pauline came in about the teenagers now watching a lot of TV and all that. It also depends, I think, even as a parents, we have a really big role to play. I know it's not easy with the current world, going to work and all that, but let's really try and be there for our kids. It's the teens we are bringing up are the future generation. And when we lose them, we have lost the whole country, I think. Of course, we don't want them to go through what we want. That's what we keep on saying. But let's try to tell them education is important, yes. And even when they have a talent, let's try and nurture it. That is one, yeah. And two, I have a passion working with the community. Some 3 years back, I was trying to work with children with HIV, those side of industrial area. But now I'm not able to get support or even to have someone that, if you go to the chief the way you are saying, they'll not tell you anything. If you try to reach the MC or wherever, you are not able to reach them. So you have things that you can offer, but you are just there. Yeah, so I hope that the new elected people are able to really factor in a lot of things, mainly to the teens and the youth. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. We will have our final comment or reaction from Lynette.
Yeah, I'm Lynette. I'm a mother of 2. I'm a member of Teen Hub. And something else, I run a group in Dandora, Community Action for Teenage Pregnancy, where we deal with young mothers and teenagers. One thing I need to tell as parents, I'm a young mother, I'm barely 23 years old. But now, we are really focusing on teenagers. How honest are we to ourselves as parents? How honest are you? Do you sit down and say like, mimi kama mzazi, nimekosea wapi? It's not all the time that this teenager makes a mistake. That's one thing we need to factor out. We need to sit, accept our mistakes. Let's learn to apologize to our teenagers. Some things they will learn from us. If I make a mistake and I can't apologize to my teenager, under no circumstances will this teenager learn to apologize to others. That's one thing we need to put into account. Second thing, when you talk about sexual violence to our teenagers, that's something that is happening, especially in Dandora, from as low as 3 years old to a teenager. For example, I passed through a Mutura base, and I heard these 2 men saying, nilichapa hiyo kitu hata ungefikiria ni mtoto wa shule. That's what these guys were talking about. And it was so shocking that these guys, you can sit down as men, they were grown-ups, sitting and talking about how they had sex with our girls comfortably. And this child cannot come and talk to you because, if I start talking to my mom about, mom, by the way, huyu alinijaribu, anakuambia, we, wacha mushane, we'll talk about that later. So as parents in Dandora especially, we're having absent parents and parents who cannot account for their mistakes. That's one thing we need to account for. Let's try and be there for our parents. In as much as we have busy schedules, let's just try and do our best. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. But that's a very sad and very unfortunate incident that you were able to witness. But I do believe on what you're saying, and I believe that the buck starts with us. It starts and it stops with us because these are our children. So, of course, we've come to the end of today's show, and I want to thank my panelists and my audience for taking part in this very, very essential conversation. I'm sure you have learned something the same way I have. I'm sure parents and guardians at home have learned a thing or two. Now, as parents navigating these teenage waters, my main take, as a parent actually navigating these teenage waters, my main take about it is, one, the foundation of good parenting to me is communication with your preteen and your teenager. The foundation of making sure that the child, you listen to the child And when you listen, we're talking about non-judgmentally listening. So where whatever they are telling you, you've already not formulated a response or a criticism. Whatever they say, you are actually paying attention, which is the second thing. And understanding our children. Like Lynette said, the buck starts with us. Let us hold ourselves accountable for these children. Let us not put our heads in the sand. Like Faith said, let us be present. Let us actually invest in time, as Pauline said. So, of course, we look forward to your reactions and your feedback on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. What were your thoughts of today's episode? What contribution do you feel like you can absolutely share with us? What is your experience raising a teen and a preteen? Of course, reach us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. On behalf of my wonderful team at KBC Channel 1, our location partner, Ma Hotel and Suites, and myself, Ashiko Mbune, I wish you all a fantastic and very supportive week. Bye-bye for now.